In this Raylectron tutorial, I'm going to concentrate on the user interface. Texturing and everything else will be in other tutorial videos. After you have installed Raylectron, you're going to see this toolbar. It will contain either this icon or these two. The CPU version will install both because this is used for instancing, which we'll explain later. The GPU version will only have this one. So just move that out of the way, put it in the toolbar someplace. And now let's just load a model. So basically the texturing is done in Raylectron. In SketchUp you can do some texturing and coloring. So all you have to do is click on the render icon, export it into a folder of your choice, and this file can be reopened later using Raylectron. You don't need SketchUp. So let's save it. Normally the auto start render here in the menu will be enabled, so the render will just run right away. So basically the interface, you get the menu options, you get the most common icons here to be used. Here is all your control for your render, such as editing your materials, animations, and illuminations, and whatever. Here you get a status pretty much telling you what it's doing, how much memory left you have, how long it's been rendering, how many samples is done, how many faces your model contain, how many frames, and how many portals and lights, which we'll explain that also later. So as you can see, it's pretty plain looking because we haven't textured it. So you can go to the material editor, right click anywhere on your model where you want to edit the texture. It will come up here. Let me make the window bigger. So basically all your material editing is done here. Okay. So first let me explain the menu. Here you can open a Raylectron file or even a OBJ file. Those files are not that common anymore, but you can still open them. When you make changes to your model, like camera or changing textures, you can save that for your model so that when you reopen it later, all these settings will be loaded again. And you can save your rendered data. Means that you can reopen that later and continue rendering from where you left off using this one here. You can save that, the render data, you can save that every so many minutes or hours if you want to let it run for a very long time, if your computer freeze, or if you electricity go off or something. So that might be in use for you. You can open this model back in SketchUp if the file exists and it knows where it is. These options here is the show hints. Is pretty much put your cursor over top something and it will tell you what it is. To turn it off, just now it's not going to show you any more hints. Auto start render is when you export from SketchUp or when you load it using the open here. It will start the render automatically. You won't have to click on the start here. Model units, you can change that to whatever you want. So right now it's set in meters, but we can set it to inches, which is like a native SketchUp. Here all these icons is start the render and stop the render. Here we stop it. So you can see here the time stops and the number of samples stops. Here you can save the rendered image. Here is your two cameras, undo and redo. It's got unlimited camera saved. So every time you move your model, here you can go back to what it was previously, just like in SketchUp. On here, you can left click to have the camera to rotate around its own axis. You can use the middle button for orbiting or the right button for panning with the mouse. Now the next icon, this one here, brings your model into view. For example, if you have your model somewhere and you have no idea where it is, you just click here and it just brings it into view. So at least you know where it is and reposition it the way you like. Let's start the render so that it renders as we do this. We can go back here again to the camera to go back to the previous or the next camera settings. Not actually settings, but positions. So here you go. Now it's grayed out. That means there's no more. This one here is pretty much you drop the camera to the eye level. It's pretty much the same as in SketchUp, this one here. And these other ones, you have to stop the render for them to work. Basically, it's the same thing as the SketchUp scenes, to create scenes. So if you like this camera position, for example, then you create a scene and then type in whatever you want to call it, and then it's going to show back up here in this one. So let's do one from the back, for example, and we'll add another scene. We'll call it back. So now we can recall the positions that we like, even if the render is going, so that you don't have to always orbit and whatever. The performance mode is a very quick render. On large model, for example, they might be kind of slow to rotate and orbit and pan and all that, so you want to do that in performance mode to make it much faster. Lock camera basically prevents you from rotating, panning, or anything. Okay, and as you notice, this here has changed when I right click here, because it tells you here right click on an object in the model to edit the material. If you right click on an empty space, then there's nothing to edit, so it just clears it. And here's to change the resolution of the render. We can make it to fit to the window. Can make it to auto size, so that when you resize the window, it follows the size of the window. You can set 25% of the original size. When you export it to Raylectron from SketchUp, it exports exactly the same resolution as you have it in SketchUp. So now this is at 25% resolution, 50%, here 100%, so that's the same size as in SketchUp. You can use the scroll bars, or you can just make it fit to window and resize the window and then do it again, or auto size, and or you can just select set the viewport yourself if you want a 800. Here is to lock the aspect ratio, so by unlocking it, that means you can type anything here, like 300 for example, so they're no longer exactly the same percentage. You can set the percentage you want, 30% by 30, let's make it 50%. So basically that's what this is for, just to change the resolution. Let's bring back the front, remove the performance mode. So here on the right side you have all the menus that are for your rendering. For example, here we got the trace depth, which is how many bounces the light will bounce off objects before it terminates. Here you got like SketchUp perspective, 2-point perspective, parallel projections, and 3D stereo. This one is pretty cool. You have to cross your eyes very slowly until both images merge into a single one, and it will look 3D just like real life. It's really amazing, but it gets some practice to do it. You don't need glasses or anything like that, so that's what it does. Now here, move the active menu to the top of the list. So if I uncheck that, opening, let's say, illumination, it will remain at its position. If I want to move it to the top instead, it goes on the top. There's nothing above it. Everything goes below it. That's useful if your window is not all that big. Let's say something like that. The other ones are below, so you have to scroll. So that's what it is. Now the post-processing is to change your intensity, exposure, brightness, contrast, saturation. If you want a black and white render, set the saturation to -1. All of these bars here, there's different ways to change the settings. You can just click and drag in it. You can double click it to reset it to its default value. You can right click on it and then change it yourself. And then press enter. Right click again, make it whatever other settings, or you can just press escape if you don't want to change it after all. So all these blue bars that you see, that's what they do. Except for this one here. This one is just a display to tell you how much memory you have left. So we'll go to the next one. We've done the rendering, post-processing. We'll go to illumination. This is your light source. You can have artificial lights, the sun, the sky, or an environment map, which is where you set it in here. Portals to sky or environment is basically areas of windows that you want to have as portals, so the light can come in properly as opposed to be too dark. We'll get to that later. Direct illumination is only used for the sun and the artificial light. And your shadows here, like right now it's set to real. Let me go back to the post-processing here and set the saturation back to 0. So the ambient shadows, I guess on this model it's not going to really show that much. So let me load a different model. When you exit, it says your model settings have changed, save now. You say yes or no. It's pretty much the same as if you do save model settings. Okay, so in this case we'll just say no, and let's load another model, and let's export this one. So back to illumination. Now it's set to ambient occlusion because there are no light source. There is no artificial lights, there's no sun, there's no sky, there's nothing. This is an enclosed structure. It's just a room with no windows. Eye shadows. Well, the ambient occlusion, basically the way it works is you have interior, which is based on how much light from everywhere an object receive. Like under this couch, for example, will receive very little light because there's a lot of objects that occludes it. Exterior is based on the same concept but the opposite. Since it is not an outdoor scene, we can't really use this. If you have a scene that you can see the interior and the exterior, then you may want to use this one. The eye shadows is differently based on from the camera to the object on the angle that it hits. And you can change the brightness of the eye shadows or the ambient shadows using this setting here. So if it's too dark or too bright, you can change it here. One more thing about these things here is if you use the shift key while you drag, the numbers will raise very fast. if you use the control key instead, they will go up and down very slow. If you use the shift and control key, that's even slower for very high precision. So now we'll stop this render and we'll go back to another model, an exterior model. We'll export it again. Now we'll start the render. Back to illumination. This one's got the sun and sky. As you can see, direct illumination is automatically set because the sun is selected. It defaults to the eye shadows, which is not real shadows. You can click on real here. As you can see, the blue from the sky shining on the walls too. We go back to rendering here, and we can do the 2-point perspective, which is more likely what you want to use for something like this house. Now we're back to illumination. Now if we want to use ambient occlusion again, then we can do exterior. We can take these two off. As you can see, interior is through the windows, so if you want both, you do this one, or exterior only. And the eye shadow, same thing, you can change the brightness here, put it back to 0, and it's totally dark, so the default is 1. It's pretty much like a multiplier. So if we go back to the sun and sky, or environment, which is the default environment map that comes with the Raylectron, but we'll use the sky. So that's what your illumination do. So now we can go to the sun and sky. Here you can click on the map to set your time zone, or you can set the latitude and longitude yourself. This one here is the sun elevation, if you want the sun higher up in the sky or lower down, making it more like a sunset. Here's the azimuth. It's pretty much where the sun is in the sky as far as like east, west, north and south. So as you can see, the shadow changes as we drag the setting. If you have an environment map with a sun in it, you can use this setting. You click on it, then you go into your environment map and click in the middle of the sun, so that when you rotate your environment map, the sun will automatically follow the sun in your environment map. It's a very neat feature. You can set the time of the day instead of using the elevation. So pretty much it's like SketchUp shadows. Set the month. You can double click that to make it right now. It will change the hour to what hour it is right now. Double click on this one to set the same minute as your computer, and the same for the day and the month to make it default for today's month and day. You can set the sun intensity, which more likely you want to keep it as 1 probably, and the sky intensity as well. If you set it to 0, then obviously the sky will be pitch black and 2 will be very bright. Turbidity is the amount of pretty much like pollution in the air. That would be completely clear, and set it to the maximum will be like a very hazy kind of sky. So basically you set it to whatever you like. So 2.2 is the the normal. Here you can change your ground color, like in SketchUp as usually is the green. So you change it to whatever you want. Just click here to change it, or play around with the colors. You can change your sun to be whatever color you want as well. can move that out of the way. So basically those are the things you can just play with and get your render to look the way you want. Now you get the fog setting as well. It's just like in SketchUp, it's based on, you know, the distance. You can auto set, you know, to make it kind of normal. But again, here you set the start of the fog where it's set according to the camera. So right now it's minus almost 200 inches behind the camera. Now it's right where the camera is, and then the end, how far you want the fog to end. It's the same thing in SketchUp. Change the color of your fog. Okay, so that's what it is. Now the environment map. Let me just quit that model and let's just re-export it because of all the changes we've done there, so we did not save it. So now the environment map, when you click on that, it comes up with the default map. What you can do is either click on here or click on load to load a different one. Environment maps are HDR. Do not use a JPEG. They're very low quality and they don't look very good at all. Here we have a whole bunch of different ones that do not come with Raylectron because they are not free. They are from the openfootage.com website. So let's load this one here. This is just a thumbnail just to make you see what it is. So we will load the HDR. So now it's going to display here in small, and now you can see the model now is showing that. You see the house is moving around horizontally, but the environment map stays the same. The reason for that is because if you rotate like this, you want the house to remain on the ground of the environment map. If it wouldn't be moving, it would look very weird. It would look like the house is floating in the air or inside the ground. If you want to move it with the house, you can click on follow camera, and as you move the house, the environment map rotates as well. Okay. So now we have the sun here. This is the gamma correction of the environment map. Most of them are already corrected. You can click on it just to you know, see how it looks like the way you like it. You can set the brightness here of the environment map if it's too bright. So now you can see here we have the sun that is still set from here. Okay, so changing the sun position may not necessarily match that one from the environment map itself. So to match that, we're going to click on here to set the sun position according to the environment map. The sun is right here, yes, but this is really bright, so we're going to use that instead. Because the sun really doesn't do anything right here. It's too low and it's behind clouds. And it shines on the clouds here, which is really bright, so we just use that. Now back to the environment map. Okay, so now if we rotate the environment map, now you can see that the sun is following the map just as we want it. The Cull Underground back faces is basically like if you have the design of a swimming pool that you want to be underground but you don't want to be seeing the actual shell. You select that as long as the shell of your swimming pool the bottom part that goes inside the ground is the back faces are showing outside. So we'll get to that another time when we'll explain this. I mean, showing examples. Now we are done with the environment map. Now cameras here is basically telling you the position of your camera. You can change it yourself like that. More likely you want to use the mouse cursor here. You would never use this here, but you can see the settings are changing as we move it. One thing you may want to use is the field of view or the focal length. This looks like a zoom, but it's not really a zoom. It's the field of view. Like the higher it is, the you can see here. So basically 35 is the default. The stereo eye distance is pretty much used only for when we want to see in 3D stereo and you cross your eyes. Some people will have, you know, they want precision, so you take a ruler, go in front of a mirror and measure the distance between your eyes and enter this value here. Like it's in inches right now, but you can go to the options, change that to millimeters. Okay, and change it there. So that's all there's for camera. Special effects is like the depth of field. Well, we'll go back to regular perspective here. And then this is pretty much we'll show that another time. It's pretty much if you want to take a snapshot of something very close, like a flower or something, and you want the background to be blurry, you know, to give special effects to your, make it look more like a photograph of some sort, like something from close up. Usually a camera, when you zoom on something close and you take a shot of it, then the background will be all blurred. Animation is it animates your scenes. Here we don't have any, but if you have a scene that shows this position, let's add a scene here, and then let's add another one like this. Okay, now we can preview the animation. It's pretty much the same thing as the SketchUp scenes. SketchUp scenes actually will be loaded in here if you have some and you export it. So basically here you set how many frames per second. The higher the better. 30 is very excellent. You don't want to go below 10. 10 is very rough, but it depends on your applications. The number of samples per frame is how many samples the render do. For example, it does 20 frames, 34, 50. So if you want your render to do 100 frames per second so that it looks good, then that's where you put it. The video quality, I would usually use 100. It saves it as an AVI, so it's basically a JPEG compression. So 50 is not all that good, but 100 is perfect. This is the transition time between your scenes here, and how much the delay is between the scenes. Okay, so this one here, the transition time total is 2 seconds for all the scenes. It tries to be at least 2 seconds. The elliptic distance multiply is when you let's do this again here. Let's stop the render and let's preview the animation. The goes from one scene to the other into an arc. So if you do that, let's say multiply that by 5, you will go out. The arc will be expanded by 5 times. If you want a linear path instead, then it goes from scene 1 to scene 2 in a straight path, not in an elliptic mode. And then you can save your animation Okay, this one was only a preview to draft. If you want to save your animation in render mode, take this off, and then you know, it will do each frames one by one. It will do how many samples per frame, so it will tell you here how many frames it has left to do, and so on and so forth. So done with the animation. Now the material editor. Let's load something else. We'll go back to the car. I could have just run Raylectron and reload it. I don't have to re-export all the time, but I'm doing this just to get you familiar with the export button, really, because it's single and it's okay. So let's start the render. We'll go to the material editor. So here you have the list of your material. These are all materials that are non-emitters. That means they don't create any lights, and they are not grass or fur related. That means they don't create any grass or fur. Here's the list of your lights, artificial lights, and the list of your grass materials, which we don't have any. They're blank. Okay, but here we have all the materials just like as they are in SketchUp. You don't have to use that. You can just right click here, for example, and now we'll scroll that so we can see what's there. So now you can set the diffuse value, shininess, reflection, transparency, refraction. Refraction is used for like glass, plastic, and things like this. The bump depth, it doesn't work on just plain color because there is no pattern to know the depth of the bumps unless you load a normal map, which we'll get to that later. So for now we can go to the convert this material into a car paint. Okay, we already have that preset in there. So now as you see, now it's getting shiny. Okay, now we can click on the windshield and go back to convert this material into an architectural glass, which is non-transparent. Okay, but you can click on the transparency here, and well, actually we just did that with the color of the car, which is no good. So let's do that again. Now it doesn't show as being transparent because the color is black, so we have to change that to a different color. If you want tinted windows, you know, just change it. So basically the shine of 10.34 is equals to glass, the way that the glass would shine. The transparency, obviously. We don't have the refraction IOR for glass in here. We don't use that because it is not a solid glass. For this car, it's just a one plain glass, I mean just a single face. It's not being push-pulled or anything to be solid, so it's not considered solid. So that's why we can use this one here as glass or solid glass. See, if I use solid glass, it doesn't look right because it is only a single pane. If I use glass itself, now it's properly reflecting, and there's no refraction. So now we can right click on the mags here, convert again, and make it chrome. You don't always have to you go to convert, and you just set your settings yourself. Excuse me. And then when you like a setting, you can click on save here, and then it saves it as a favorite. You can save it and make it global or not. If you make it global, it's going to show over here, and your non-global will be saved right here. Global means that in SketchUp, okay, we have here, we got chrome, glass, and car paint is not global. So we're gonna, just to show you how this works, we're gonna cancel that. I'm not gonna save the settings. I'm going to go to SketchUp Material Editor. I'm going to bring up this window. Instead of calling it Material 1, I'm going to call it Glass. And I'm going to do for the car paint. The car paint's not going to work because it is not a global material. This one here for the mags, I'm going to call it Chrome, the same thing as in my global settings. So now if I export that, Raylectron automatically will detect the name that starts with Chrome and starts with Glass, so that it knows which one to use. So as you can see, the mags are already Chrome and the window is already a Glass, because the name of the material is Glass. And here on our global material we have one called Glass, and the same thing for the Chrome here. It's called Chrome, and here in our global we have it right here. So if you want to save this car paint, you can save it and then call it whatever you like, and make it global, so that if you call that material in SketchUp the same, it will detect it. As long as it starts with these, okay? It can be mirror number 2, mirror number 3, or Chrome number 1, Chrome number 2, or Chrome wheels, whatever you call it, as long as it starts with that, okay? Architectural glass number 1, same thing. Pool water, you name it, okay? So basically here again, we're gonna scroll that so you can see. Live update, that means that, for example, the color here, if I change it, it's not going to be live updated, so you'll have to click on apply to change it. Okay, if live update is checked, then your material, your texture changes right away. It depends how fast is your computer, your video card, if you use the GPU or not. In this case I am using the GPU. So now you can load a texture. Let's go back to this one, right click on that one, and instead of selecting Glass myself, I'm just going to go and change the shininess myself. I'm just going to put it 10. So as you can see, it now it's shiny. So let's right click on the paint and let's load the material for it by clicking on this texture icon. This here will be a normal map. They're grayed out because there's nothing there. If you put one in SketchUp, it will automatically be showing in here. So we click on it, and then let's go and select something. Let's use this one here, the brick pattern. So now as you can see, it tiles it nicely compared to the way that SketchUp tiles brick patterns or any kind of patterns onto curved surfaces and stuff. So now we can click on the normal map and we just load the normal map. It's usually these blue ones here, they're all normal maps. These ones were from the I don't remember the site. Let me check it out real quick. Yeah, they are from the FilterForge website. FilterForge is a very nice program. You can make all your patterns yourself and make normal maps, which are used for bumps. You'll see what I mean. See, when you load it, it actually put the bump to 10 by itself. Let's change it to 50, just to give you an idea. So now you can see a lot more bumps into the onto the car. If I set it to 0, now it's plain. Minus 50 will reverse the bump. Instead of being recessed, they will come out. So that's about it. And then you can change the width and the height of your texture, making it smaller or not. Like here, if I make it 0.4, now the brick pattern is very small. Again, here we got the lock to lock the aspect ratio between it, so you can unlock it and make the width longer. Actually, this is height instead, so we can go to this one here. So now you can see that they're longer. Make that 1.3. Now the length stays the same, but now they're more squeezed, which is really not what you would want, but in this case it works. You can rotate your texture, let's say 90 degrees. If you want to reposition it, drag that. And then this one does not block direct light. Is if you have a background, let's say a background of a forest or whatever, that will block the sun, for example, and then it will create a shadow on your house. So you would use that so that you can still see it, but the sun will go right through it, just like if it would be an environment map, for example. So that's very useful for background faces that you don't want it to cast any shadows. So that's all there is to it right now. So please look at the other tutorials. We will go in depth about everything. Right now that was just a quick walkthrough of it. Well, quick not really, but 40 some minutes. So at least it gives you a good idea of what Raylectron can do, and I hope you enjoy it. And if you have any problems or any suggestions, please let us know. Go to our website and send us an email. Go to our forum. Okay, thank you.